This will sound very strange, but the 1989 World Series earthquake in the San Francisco Bay Area, in which the earthquake occurred in the opening minutes of the ABC Sports broadcast, right after James Earl Jones read a poem about baseball written by Bartlett Giamatti, is a prophecy that is predicting that James Earl Jones, the voice of Mufasa, the Lion King, which is symbolism for the lion's roar, and the voice of Darth Vader, will die on precisely September 1st, 2022. The date that this video is posted proves that this prediction was made ahead of time, as does this timestamped email and forensic notes PDF. If you are skeptical, please email me and I will forward these to you. James Earl Jones was the voice of the lion. He was the voice of the Lion King. James Earl Jones will die 8 + 8 days before the occurrence of the event that is described in the Bible in the book of Revelation in chapter 8. Revelation 8:7 describes a catastrophic solar flare coronal mass ejection hit from the sun. The lion's roar symbolizes this, and this is what the death of the voice of the Lion King will symbolize. 7 days after this first solar storm coronal mass ejection from the sun that will hit Earth, there will be a second, even more catastrophic solar storm coronal mass ejection hit from the sun. This is why, from the death of James Earl Jones, which will symbolize the lion's roar, it is 2 sets of 8 days to the beginning of the events described in Revelation chapter 8. This 8 + 8 days connection hints at the upcoming 2 solar storm coronal mass ejection hits from the sun. This catastrophic solar flare that is described in Revelation chapter 8 will occur exactly 800 days after the astronomy news came out regarding the biggest solar flare ever detected. This super flare was detected on a star that is located in the neck of Leo the Lion constellation, which is why the media called it the lion's roar. James Earl Jones, the voice of Mufasa, the king in the movie The Lion King, symbolizes this lion's roar. One of the reasons why the number 9 is the most important number in God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections, which is only being explained on this channel, is because of God's covenant with man regarding judgment that he gave to Noah in Genesis chapter 9. The death of James Earl Jones will be Noah's flood symbolism. The character that James Earl Jones was the voice of, the Lion King, Mufasa, in the movie The Lion King, died in a stampede of wildebeests, which is symbolism for a flood. The death of James Earl Jones will be Noah's flood symbolism. Jones will die exactly 9 weeks before U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash. Here is the email and PDF file that document that this prediction is being made ahead of time. It is necessary that you first watch the video titled Solar Storm Lion's Roar. I recommend pausing this video here and watch the Solar Storm Lion's Roar video. Then come back to this video. This video you are watching also contains amazing and very important information. However, the Solar Storm Lion's Roar video is an introductory video that should be watched first. There is 0 news of James Earl Jones's health as of the date that this video was posted. Furthermore, the reasoning that I am about to explain confirms that the supernatural is involved with these predictions. Also, I have known that the death of James Earl Jones would be a major prophetic sign from God since 2019. Since April 9th, it was predicted that July 28th would be the symbolic date of a symbolic beginning of a new pandemic. This prediction was made before monkeypox became a thing. On July 28th, San Francisco became the first U.S. city to declare that monkeypox is a health emergency, and New York State became the first state to declare that monkeypox is a health emergency. Also on July 28th, 2 states declared state of emergencies due to destructive flooding. In the Bible, God gave Noah a 7 days warning to load the ark before the flood judgment began. And so it was predicted that 7 days later, on August 4th, President Biden would declare that monkeypox is a national health emergency. This is exactly what happened on August 4th, as was predicted in advance. The post dates of the monkeypox prediction videos prove that these predictions were made in advance. Make sure you watch these extremely important videos. Here are the time-stamped emails and PDF files that also document that these predictions were made ahead of time. It was known since April 9th that July 28th would be the day of a new pandemic. As we can see here, this is an email thread, and this email was sent on April 10th. And here I am talking about the prophetic signs that occurred on April 9th, which point to 110 days later, which is July 28th, and how these signs on April 9th communicated that there will be a new pandemic that will symbolically begin on July 28th. Here, for example, in this thread, I also mention how April 9th was exactly 110 weeks after Trump announced the first death in King County in Washington State. It was the symbolic beginning of COVID-19, and that was announced at 2 p.m., and at the same time, it was announced that there were 22 cases of COVID-19 in America. If you have watched some of my other videos, you will recognize immediately the prophetic significance of a series of 2s in relation to COVID-19. And so, in other words, it is exactly 110 weeks from the official announcement of the beginning of COVID-19 in America to April 9th and the prophetic signs that occurred on April 9th. And then in turn, it is 110 days to July 28th. Now, it is explained in other videos, but one of the confirmations of adding 110 days to April 9th was the prophetic sign, which was the vandalism of the tomb of Joseph in Israel, and Joseph died at the age of 110. Here in this email, for example, you can see that I am talking about the vandalism of the tomb of Joseph right here, and then I am saying that it is in conjunction with signs that are pointing to the coming plague. People have their worldviews, and so people will tell themselves in their own mind how and why I was able to know these predictions in advance. However, I assure you that your assumptions are not correct. I have spent the last 5 years working from morning until night, learning about God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections. I assure you that I know better than you the reasons for how and why God has given me a voice through these predictions. In the description box below this video, I will leave a link to a video titled God's Purpose for These Predictions. It would be an enormous shame for you to learn about these predictions, but not know the reasons for how and why God has given these predictions. In other words, unless you watch this video, God's Purpose for These Predictions, you will have missed the point of this video and the point of this video channel. Make sure you watch the video, God's Purpose for These Predictions, either before or after watching this video. I will be slightly more blunt. It would be very foolish to not learn the reason for how and, more importantly, why God has given me a voice through these predictions. In other words, don't be the foolish person that will choose to skip the video titled God's Purpose for These Predictions. Okay, in this brief video, I'm going to explain this truly profound diagram here. But first, I need to say that I'm not going to explain anything really in this video regarding these signs. I'm just going to go straight through the information without really explaining things. This video is intended more as an introduction video to other must-watch videos, as I will explain or talk about as we go. And so in other words, it's somewhat of a teaser, if you will, just giving you some little bit of information to make you realize that there's a lot going on. But let's begin with the World Series earthquake in 1989, Game 3. Right away, I'm going to say that there's so much going on with this sign, and I'm not going to explain it. What you need to do, in fact, I highly recommend, that you stop this video now and come back to it after watching the Star Wars Prophecy video. You will understand why I am saying this after you've watched the other video. Again, it's the Star Wars Prophecy video. You need to watch that video first. It is about what I'm about to talk about, including this World Series earthquake Game 3. Okay? So going forward, I am going to assume that you've already watched the other video. Trust me. You need to stop this video and go watch the other video. Okay, so what I just said about my recommendation that you stop this video and watch the Star Wars Prophecy video first equally applies to another video that I just recently made. In other words, what I am recording right now is recorded after the bit that I just recorded. You could do these things with editing. All of this isn't all recorded in one session. So anyway, since the developments of the Star Wars Prophecy video and the video that is this video was made, I have made this other video called the Field of Dreams Prophecy video. Another movie that James Earl Jones starred in. And that should also be watched before this video. All of these videos are important, so make sure you come back after those videos and watch this video. I just recommend watching them in the order that I suggested. You don't have to listen to me. You can listen to this video first if you would like. Actually, I take that back, because the very first thing we're going to be talking about here is the Temple Mount sign in 2017. And if you really want to appreciate the connection between James Earl Jones and the 1989 World Series earthquake and the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, then you really need to watch the Field of Dreams video first. And so, yeah, again, it's highly recommended that you stop this video and watch the Field of Dreams Prophecy video first. The Field of Dreams Prophecy video will demonstrate how God has used the movie Field of Dreams to point to the Temple Mount. And because I don't want to repeat myself, there are things you need to know that are explained in that video, and will give you a much greater appreciation for what's going on in this video. The first thing to say about the World Series earthquake is that it occurred at the beginning of the broadcast, right before the game was, right at the opening minutes of the broadcast.
I'm Catherine Couric. A strong earthquake rocked the San Francisco Bay Area just moments ago.
6.9 is what we're hearing.
Big enough to bring cities in Northern California to their knees.
In 1989, the Loma Prieta earthquake sent a deadly shockwave across Northern California. And from the earthquake's opening jolt, which came during a live broadcast of the World Series, to coverage of the grisly aftermath, Loma Prieta became a national television event.
This was the most watched earthquake and probably one of the most watched natural disasters in American history.
The earthquake left 63 people dead, caused as much as $10 billion in damage, and touched off a national conversation about seismic readiness. And not just for California.
Which was very prophetic, designed by God so that the world could see the destruction around the Bay Area. It was the first earthquake to be captured live on camera, on television, on live television. But anyway, the broadcast began with James Earl Jones reading the poem, the prophetic poem, as was explained in the Star Wars Prophecy video, that was written by Bartlett Giamatti, the former commissioner of the Baseball League. And that's why this is relevant, and why it ties into the death of James Earl Jones. Also, James Earl Jones starred in Field of Dreams, which is explained in the Star Wars Prophecy video. Okay, what I had just said was recorded before recording this, and before recording the Field of Dreams Prophecy video. And again, the Field of Dreams Prophecy video makes it even so much more important and relevant as to why God is pointing to how James Earl Jones read this poem from Bartlett Giamatti, which is also pointing to, by the way, when Kamala Harris will die in her plane crash, an extremely prophetic 220 days after she visited the president of Guatemala Alejandro Giamatti. But that's another story that's explained in the Field of Dreams prophecy video. So it's very, very important. And what I'm going to do now is just play a clip from this most prophetic opening to the 1989 World Series Game 3 earthquake. And Al Michaels, the legendary sports announcer that God has used throughout his career, beginning with the Miracle on Ice prophetic sign in 1980, which he was the sports announcer for, to the prophetic double doink NFL football game in 2019. And in this opening broadcast, Al Michaels says that, well, folks, that was the greatest opening in television history, bar none, emphasizing the importance of this opening of the broadcast.
Baseball is about homecoming. It is a journey by theft and strength, guile and speed, out around first to the far island of second, where foes lurk in the reeds and the green sea suddenly grows deeper. Then it turns sharply, skimming the shallows, making for a shore that will show a friendly face, a color, a familiar language, and at third to proceed no longer by paths indirect, but
the Battle of the Bay continues. Game 3 of the 1989 World Series, the Oakland Athletics against the San Francisco Giants. I'm Al Michaels. Welcome to Game 3.
It's been think of key plays in a 5-1 ball game, but let's go back to the top of the third inning. Will Clark flash forward to the bottom of the fourth inning. Dave Parker barely by inches just misses a home run. Candy Maldonado with the hesitation, allowing Jose Canseco to score, and he fails to get Dave Parker at second base, so the Oakland A's take.
I'll tell you what, we're having an earth. I don't know if we're on the air. We are in commercial, I guess.
Yes, we hear you. I guess
I don't hear a thing.
Dave Parker.
Well, I don't know if we're on the air or not, and I'm not sure I care at this particular moment, but we are. Well, folks, that's the greatest open in the history of television, bar none. Yes, it certainly did. We're still here. We are still, as we can tell, on the air, and I guess you are hearing us, even though we have no picture and no return audio, and we will be back, we hope, from San Francisco in just a moment.
As was explained in the Field of Dreams prophecy video, the reading of Bartlett Giamatti's poem about baseball being a metaphor for a homecoming, followed by James Taylor's song, Hello, Old Friend, is pointing to the second coming of Lord Jesus Christ, when he will then dwell in the temple on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem for the 1,000 years of peace in the Messianic age. What I didn't show and cut out of the clip is how Tim McCarver talks about the dominant pitching of the first two pitchers of the Game 1 and Game 2 of the World Series before this Game 3. And both of those players' numbers add up to 55. And although if you haven't watched the Field of Dreams video, it will sound a little absurd or a little silly, but that's actually pointing to the Temple Mount, because as God has demonstrated, it symbolizes 5 times 5 equals 25, which from the Bible is the number that symbolizes the temple on the Temple Mount. And again, baseball pitchers from the mound, the pitching mound, are symbolizing the Antichrist on the Temple Mount. And we know from Bible prophecy there are 2 Antichrists, hence why there are 2 pitchers in this sign. And also what confirms it is the first pitcher's number is the number 34, and God uses the number 34 to reveal the identity of the Antichrist, as has been explained in the Field of Dreams prophecy video. I actually contemplated leaving this part out about this adding up to number 55, because if you haven't watched the other video, this will seem so outlandish. You might want to turn off the video at this point. But this prediction proves everything. This prediction will prove the insights being made explained on this channel, and so I'm not going to worry at this point how silly this sounds about the two pictures adding up to 55. What I also wanted to point out is something that I very recently realized, is that at the very last seconds of this visual in the opening of the broadcast, when Tim McCarver, Al Michaels' co-host, is speaking, he's talking about this hit that almost was a home run, and and the focus is on how it just missed by feet, as Tim McCarver said. Just barely misses. And so we have the emphasis on where the ball is, okay? Because of that, we can see that the ball is pointing to the number 330 on the wall, okay? Then right after that, the big outcome of this game, or of this play, was how Jose Canseco, player number 33, scored as a result of this play here. So again, the ball is hit, the emphasis is on where it goes, and it goes right near the number 330, which results in player number 33 scoring, which, as Tim McCarver said in the beginning, is one of these key plays of the game. And so this is key. And so, in other words, what we're being pointed to is the number 33, or a series of threes. We have the 330-foot marker on the wall, and then the score of player number 33. Okay, so going forward, this was game 3, and that's why it is relevant. We add 333 months. It is also symbolic of the Trinity and Jesus, but it's confirmation because of the game 3. That's what the earthquake occurred at the beginning of the broadcast of game 3. And God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works on the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses conferring matters, as the Bible says is required to confirm things. Otherwise, this is delusional. And so the only reason why I do this is because we have, in this true big picture of signs and patterns, and we have second and third witnesses confirming things. And that's why it's 333 months after game 3. To one of the most prophetic signs of all, which was the day in July of 2017, on the 17th, was the Temple Mount sign, when the Jews were able to openly pray on the Temple Mount for the first time after a terrorism event on the Temple Mount. And that is confirmed as being extremely prophetic, because it was exactly 49 biblical years, as you can see in this diagram here at the bottom left, exactly 49 biblical years after the decree to rebuild Jerusalem. And other videos explain how that is extremely prophetic and ties in with Daniel chapter 9 and the timing of the arrival of the Messiah, and the parallel with Suleiman the Magnificent in 1535. And so I'm not going to explain that. So, okay, in the Bible, it is said 7 times in Bible prophecy that the Antichrist's rule will be for 42 months. This is the tribulation period that will begin on May 1st, 2021, this final 42 months period. And that's why it's extremely relevant, because also it's said in Bible prophecy that the Antichrist will rule on the Temple Mount. He will set up the abomination that causes desolation, for example. And that's why this is extremely prophetic here, this Temple Mount sign that comes after terrorism on the Temple Mount. And so it's exactly 42 months to James Earl Jones's 90th birthday on the 17th. Okay, God pairs the numbers 9 and 17 frequently in his big picture of signs because, for one thing, it hints at Genesis 9:17, which is the last verse in the account of Noah's flood, and it regards God's sign regarding judgment, the rainbow. Also, God pairs the numbers 9 and 17 together to point to Barack Obama, who was president from 2009 until 2017. The president that lit up the White House in rainbow colors after the decision of the Supreme Court regarding gay marriage. Also in the Old Testament, Psalm 9:17 is, "The wicked shall return to hell, all the nations that forget God." Okay, so, but anyway, 9 and 17 are paired together. That's what's being hinted at with the 90th birthday on the 17th. Also, again, James Earl Jones's birthday on the 17th of January is hinting at the number 117, the date 117, because the Antichrist will come to power through during the 117th Congress. The Star Wars prophecy video explains the relevance of a 3 months and 14 days connection, especially when James Earl Jones is involved. Again, the signs that revealed the death of James Earl Jones on the date 314, which symbolizes pi, the first three numbers, 3.14, was 3 months and 14 days after the death of the actor that played Darth Vader. James Earl Jones is the voice of Darth Vader. And anyway, that's why that's relevant, especially when we are calculating it from James Earl Jones's prophetic birthday. That gets us to May 1st, an extremely prophetic day. By the way, also the number pi is the mysterious transcendental number that God has baked into his creation, and God reveals his name, I am, to Moses. That's what he says his name is, I am, to Moses in Exodus chapter 3, verse 14, which is another hint at 3.14. And it just so happens that the symbol for I am in Hebrew is the same symbol for pi in Greek. And the date May 1st is the day that has been known with 100% certainty since 2017, and the mountain of evidence as high as Mount Everest since then has confirmed this, that the second coming is in the autumn on the Day of Atonement in 2024. And 7 times in Bible prophecy, it talks about 42 months rule of the Antichrist period, which is also 1,260 days, and exactly 1,260 days back from the Day of Atonement in 2024 was May 1st and May 2nd, 2021. And the signs we received on that day confirm it. It was the splashdown of the Dragon capsule, the Dragon crew, and other signs as well. From the second heaven, outer space, the capsule returning to Earth, a splashdown. And that is pointing to the dragon in Revelation chapter 12 that is thrown down to earth, and also at the beginning of the 1,260 days. So that was amazing confirmation of the fact that May 1st was the beginning of the 1,260 days. It's indisputable, incontrovertible. God's signs make that indisputable, incontrovertible, if you have the eyes to see, but also the predictions being made in these videos serve this purpose as well as proving this. I can relate to those of you that are surprised, those that are perhaps a little bit familiar with some Bible prophecy, and to hear that the 1,260 days would begin without something like the Antichrist stepping on the Temple Mount or something to that effect. What I've learned along the way over and over again is that God is a God of symbolism, and his prophetic signs, the book of Revelation itself, is filled with symbolism. It is symbolism, including the 7 years period, which is only alluded to once in Bible prophecy. It isn't even explicitly said, it's alluded to in Daniel chapter 9, and that's symbolic as well. The symbolic 7 years of prophetic signs really began in the second half of 2017, and the first 3.5 years are the signs, and then the last 3.5 years are the end times, right? But even the official beginning is a symbolic date, May 1st. It's about to get started, though. Things are about to get really going here with the judgment and destruction. But it didn't have to begin specifically on May 1st, and we got the sign to confirm that that was a symbolic beginning. Okay, from the World Series earthquake, as we can see here, it is 29 years, which has been explained in the Star Wars video, which you, I assume, have already watched, to the lightning rocket sign and the big bird sign, which I assume you already know because you've watched the Star Wars prophecy video. And again, as I said before, this is 23 days, which is the number that God uses to reveal the identity of the Antichrist, who wore jersey number 23 when he played basketball in high school, the basketball president, to the Petra flash flood sign, which reveals the Antichrist in chapter 12 of the book of Revelation, the flash flood the Antichrist will use to drown the Jews that are hiding in the wilderness in Petra. It's explained why this identifies Barack Obama. For one thing, it's 23 deaths in the flash flood in 1963, which at this time of this news story, the news was talking about. Okay, and so 9 months and 23 days, speaking of Revelation chapter 12, these are the two numbers that God is using to pair together to point to not to point to Revelation chapter 12. That's a mistake. It's the other way around. God is using this to point to Barack Obama. The number 9 and 23 both symbolize judgment, and they both are paired together to point to Barack Obama. And that's learned through God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections. And so if all you know about 9 and 23 is that the date 9/23 in 2017 was the day of the Revelation 12 rapture sign, there's much more going on to these two numbers and why they're paired together and why they both identify Barack Obama. And this is one reason. It's 9 months and 23 days exactly to the Hell's Gate Canyon flash flood. And that's on the same parallel or longitudinal line as the Petra Jordan. And this is in southwest Kenya, the same region that Barack Obama's father is from and where Barack Obama was born. Okay, and so anyway, 400 weeks exactly from the Petra flash flood to the tsunami in Japan, which is a flood, and 400 God uses, and 400 weeks often, frequently as well, because the number 400 symbolizes the Antichrist, because Pharaoh in Egypt, a type for the Antichrist, persecuted the Jews in Egypt for 400 years. Another confirmation of this that's pointing to Barack Obama, this Petra flash flood, is that it is exactly 50 years, which is an extremely prophetic number of period of time in the Bible. And it's extremely in signs, patterns, and connections as well. There's many, many 50 years connections. It's just amazing. And this is one of them. It's 50 years exactly from the Petra flash flood back to this earthquake in 1968, which has already been explained in the Star Wars video. It's one of the strongest earthquakes ever in the state of Illinois. I believe it might even be the strongest, if I recall, but it's one of the two that were the strongest ever in the state of Illinois. And the other strongest earthquake in 2008 also points to Barack Obama, but that's another story explained in the Super Bowl video. And that's why, because Barack Obama is from Illinois. Also, by the way, speaking of Chicago and Illinois, on the same day that the Japan tsunami, another confirmation that this is pointing to Barack Obama. It's not just that it's 400 weeks to this other flood, which is the second witness to this flood, but it's also the day that the Chicago Blackhawks visited Barack Obama at the White House, and sports teams visiting the Obama at the White House have provided many prophetic signs, especially ones that are from Chicago. There were 4 teams that won championships during the presidency of President Obama, and President Obama is a big sports fan, and he's always making jokes about the teams and how they're not from Chicago if they're not from Chicago. And this was the first time, I believe, this was the first one, a team that visited Obama at the White House. I could be wrong about that. The Chicago Blackhawks visited 3 times, which is 3 witnesses to the fact that the Blackhawks are hinting at the coming blackout. But that's another story. And also the Blackhawks are extremely prophetic for another reason too. The Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup in 1961, the time, which was the time before they won during the presidency of Obama. It was one of these longest, it was, I think at the time, the longest Stanley Cup drought. And that's also prophetic for other reasons that are explained in other videos. But also it was exactly 110 days that they won in 1961 before his birthday. But there's so much more regarding the 1961 Blackhawks, which is explained in other videos. And so that's it. See, I just went through this extremely quickly. There's way more I could have gone. I could have gone on for an hour about this, explaining all of these signs. And so you need to watch the other videos. The other video that you need to watch is also regarding the earthquake, the World Series signs, is the part 19 in this video series. That's if you only are planning on spending a little bit of time on this channel, limited amount of time, which I believe is a mistake. But if so, make sure you watch the videos in part 19. A through H. It's broken into multiple parts. Part 19, the must-watches, and you'll begin. It'll begin with talking about the World Series rainbows in 2013 and 2018, and the signs in 2018 at the beginning of the World Series, for example, which was 29 years after the 1989 World Series earthquake. Okay, so we'll leave it at that. I'll leave links to the other videos that are recommended, that I recommended in this video, in the description box below.